3 spine-chilling urban exploration tales, terrifying secrets exposed in cursed locations. The night air was thick with tension as Jenna and her friends crept through the broken gates of the long-abandoned high school. Whispers of haunting tales had filled their suburban neighborhood for years, and now they were ready to uncover the terrifying truths hidden inside those decaying walls. Tattoos of the school's past screamed for attention, but no one dared approach until now. This was going to be the most viral adventure yet. Jenna's heart raced, a wild mix of excitement and fear fueling her desire to document every moment. Michael, her best friend, eyed her with skepticism, his protective nature kicking in. Jake, her anxious younger brother, clung to his phone like a lifeboat amidst the rising waves of dread. "What if we get caught?" he murmured, voice wavering. "Come on, it's just an old building. We'll be fine," Jenna reassured, though her own stomach twisted in uncertain knots. They stepped inside, laughter bubbling forth, shattered glass crunching underfoot. The once vibrant classrooms lay frozen in time, a macabre museum of peeling paint and ghost stories long forgotten. The echoes of their laughter quickly faded into an oppressive silence, sending shivers down Jenna's spine. They wandered deeper, the shadows growing thicker, enveloping them in a shroud of fear. Dark corners loomed ominously, taunting with the secrets they held. Just as Jenna began filming her introduction to share later, she noticed an unsettling draft whisper through the hallways. The laughter died on her lips. "You guys," I think I heard suddenly, from the darkness, a slight scuffling caught their attention. Jenna's breath caught in her throat, and her instinct screamed that they needed to leave. But before they could escape, they stumbled upon a hidden trapdoor, half buried under rotting debris. Curiosity overwhelmed their fear, and with hesitant excitement, they pried it open, revealing a chilling underground facility. Their phone flashlights flickered as they descended into the suffocating darkness. What they found inside sent ice through their veins, remnants of disturbing experiments, faded journals detailing lives snuffed out without a trace. Each page told a story of despair, torment, and loss. The air turned electric with the weight of forgotten lives, the oppression nearly suffocating. A dark truth unearthed about the school's history washed over them like a wave, burying them under sorrow. "Guys, I think we should," Jenna began, but panic suddenly took over when Jake skittered off, mumbling something about needing to get the perfect shot. "Jake! Wait!" She felt her heart race like a trapped bird, caught between devotion and fear. "Jenna, we can't lose him." Michael's voice was frantic as the stillness closed in around them. The silence morphed into a heavy blanket, trapping them. As they called for Jake, their voices echoed through the abandoned halls, unwelcome sounds chasing shadows of dread back at them. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The moment they returned to the search, an agonizing giggle filtered through the air, inhuman and eerie. Jenna's blood froze. They shared horrified glances, a silent acknowledgement of the very real terror now nesting deep in their chests. The laughter taunted their every step, drawing them further into the suffocating black. As they stumbled through crumbling hallways, each flicker of their phone lights revealed fleeting shadows, figures darting just out of sight. Time stretched thin, the pulse of abandonment. And dread humming louder than ever. What dark forces had they unearthed? Where was Jake? With every second passing, the weight of their reality felt more fractured, the horrors inside the school unraveling around them. They were now players in a story darker than they ever expected, one that would not only test their friendship but their willingness to confront the impossible horrors lurking in the dark. As the laughter rang out again, mocking them from the shadows, they knew whatever fate awaited them, they could only plunge deeper into the unknown for a chance to find Jake and survive. Time was running out. Jenna's breath quickened. Fear tightened her chest like a vice. We have to find Jake. She shouted, adrenaline fueling her fear. Michael nodded, eyes wide. This isn't funny anymore. We need to stay together. The laughter echoed, seeming to swirl around them like a sinister breeze. With every step deeper into the underground labyrinth, the oppressive atmosphere thickened, a palpable dread weighing down the air. Jenna tried to swallow, but her throat felt raw. This way. She pointed down a narrow corridor, barely illuminated by their flickering lights. Yeah, let us go. Michael urged, grabbing her arm. As they crept forward, Jenna felt the ground pulse beneath her feet, as if it were alive. She held her flashlight up higher, illuminating more of the damp walls that closed in on them. Scratches marred the concrete, twisted symbols etched into the surface. What had happened here? What had they stumbled into? Suddenly, a loud crash resonated from behind them. Jenna spun around, heart racing. Jake! She yelled. Are you there? By the time she turned back, a shadow darted in her peripheral vision. It flickered past the corner of the hall. Her blood ran cold. Was it Jake? Just as quickly, the figure vanished. Did you see that? Jenna gasped, her voice barely escaping her throat. What? Michael whispered, eyes darting around. What did you see? I don't know. The chilling giggle returned, now closer, ringing in their ears. It twisted into a mockery of laughter, echoing off the concrete. They exchanged terrified glances, lost in the creeping horror. Their phones buzzed with notifications, but Jenna's focus was elsewhere. Maybe we should call for him, Michael suggested, his voice shaking. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The air turned colder, a frigid breath wrapping around them like an icy shroud. Jake! Jenna called, squinting into the shadows. Her voice felt small, as though the darkness itself wanted to consume them. I'm here. A faint voice replied, disembodied and distant. It was Jake's voice. Jenna's relief was short-lived. His call sounded odd, strained, something felt wrong. Where are you? She shouted back, anxiety spiking. Follow the lights. Jake responded, noise filtering in and out, as though he were deep underground. Is that him? Michael asked, dread pooling in his gut. Yeah, this way. Jenna took off, her heart pounding, Michael close behind. The deeper they went, the more twisted and warped the hallways became. Jake! They shouted in unison, the word reverberating. The path began to bend and twist in ways that defied logic. Flickers of light danced on the walls, leading them like a flickering beacon. But the laughter persisted, growing louder in cadence, wrapping around them like a predator circling its prey. It was almost as if the darkness was alive, mocking their every move. As they turned a corner, Jenna nearly fell, but instead caught herself on the wall. She froze. In the dim light stood a door, slightly ajar. A sliver of light escaped from within. Jake? Is that you in there? Jenna called, barely able to mask the tremor in her voice. They crept closer, breaths held tight in their throats. The door creaked, revealing a room filled with shadows and strange shapes, throwing their fears into overdrive. The shadows twisted unnaturally, as if they had been stained with deep-rooted horrors. Jenna, wait! Michael warned, grabbing her arm before she could shove the door fully open. What if he's in there? She hissed, panic rising within her like bile. Something isn't right. We need a plan, Michael started, but his words faded as another burst of laughter erupted from within the room. The laughter echoed one last time, morphing into a sinister chorus of whispers. With a sudden flash of determination, Jenna gritted her teeth. We face this together. We can't leave Jake. The door swung wider, revealing the unsettling scene. A dim, flickering light shone down on a circle of worn-out chairs, each one empty, yet uneasy. Jenna could feel the air crackle with something unholy. Whose chairs are these? Michael whispered. Voice faltering. I don't know, Jenna replied, stepping hesitantly forward. But just then, their phones buzzed simultaneously, illuminating the peeling walls, blinding them momentarily. The lights flickered out, plunging them into darkness. A new voice emerged from behind them, chilling and deep, filling the air with dread. Are you ready to join us? And as icy fingers seemed to brush against the back of their necks, they turned, hearts pounding, knowing they had no choice but to confront whatever waited in the shadows, what was lurking behind them. And had they just begun to awaken a deeper terror they couldn't comprehend? The darkness felt like a living thing, pressing against Jenna and Michael. The cold seeped into their bones as they turned slowly, dread pooling in their stomachs. The voice resonated again, a low growl that crawled through the air, sending icy shivers down their spines. Join us, it murmured, the sound swirling around them like smoke. Get back! Jenna shouted, raising her flashlight, its beam flickering nervously. Michael squeezed her arm, uncertainty etched across his face. We need to leave. But the dark maniacal laughter erupted again, bouncing off the damp walls, filling their ears. It enveloped them, mocking their fear, and for a moment, Jenna thought she could feel hands touching her skin, brushing against her neck and arms. Jake! She screamed, desperation clawing at her voice. Stay together. Michael urged, but panic spread through him like wildfire. The air thickened, suffocating them. The shadows twisted, and she could just make out the shapes of figures that seemed to squirm along the walls. It was as if the very space around them was alive with something malevolent. Where are you? Michael yelled, his voice breaking. Show yourself. A low rumble echoed from the dark, as if the walls themselves were laughing. Jenna stepped back, her heart pounding. We can't stay here. We need to find a way out. She turned to retrace their steps, but the corridor twisted unexpectedly, leading them deeper into the labyrinth. The laughter faded into a grim silence, only to be replaced by soft whispers that skittered around them, barely audible. Find me, it was Jake's voice again, but the words dripped with something sinister. Come play, Jenna's heart sank. That's not Jake, she whispered, dread tightening her throat. Michael stepped forward, determination flickering in his eyes. We can't leave him. He guided her further along the corridor, pushing through his own fear. Jake! They called out in unison, voices wavering in the stifling darkness. The flickering lights above responded sporadically, casting eerie shadows that danced menacingly against the walls. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed through the halls. They froze, glancing at each other in shared panic. What was that? Michael gasped. Before Jenna could reply, the whispers grew louder, coalescing into distorted voices. Come play forever. The walls seemed to pulse as the whispers merged, filling the space with a terrifying energy. The floor beneath them trembled and cracked, pulsating like a heartbeat, as if the entire structure was alive. Jenna's breath became shallow, each inhale tasting like iron. Our run! She finally cried, grabbing Michael's hand. They sprinted forward, dodging off the walls, desperate to escape the encroaching evil. The whispers turned frantic, turning into a chant that clawed at their minds. Join us! Join us! Join us! Every word struck like a hammer, threatening to break their resolve. Jenna glanced back, shadows flickered as dark shapes began to emerge from the edges of her light. They were closing in. No! We have to keep going. She urged, fear loosening her grip on the flashlight. She stumbled but kept moving, fear rooting her like a stake in the ground. Rounding a corner, they found another door, its frame crooked, the wood warped and aged. Without hesitation, Jenna pushed it open. They stumbled into a room, breathless, looking around frantically. The room seemed like a twisted gallery, filled with grotesque paintings that stretched and warped. And there, in the center, stood a figure cloaked in shadow, a silhouette that seemed to inhale the light. Welcome, it hissed softly, its voice like shards of glass. The shadows behind them closed in, urging them back towards the lurking dark that wanted them. In that moment, Jenna's blood ran cold. "What do you want?" she yelled, trying to reclaim some control, but her voice wavered. "Join us." Become one. A hollow laugh echoed again. Escape is a lie. Suddenly, the room began to spin. Everything tilted, and Jenna clutched Michael's arm, terror flashing across his face. "Jenna! What do we do?" Panic surged through her as they felt the walls constrict around them. But the shadows were now pulling apart, revealing a path back to where they'd come from, a sinister invitation they dared not take. "What if we can find Jake?" she whispered, her heart racing with desperation, but deep down, she felt it a growing certainty that they were reaching the core of something unimaginable. And as they stood there, facing the engulfing darkness, the laughter crescendoed, washing over them like a tide of malevolence. What would they face if they chose to step deeper into the abyss? Would Jake be waiting for them, or had they unwittingly walked into their own doom? Panic ripped through Jenna as the shadows undulated, swirling closer, hungry and greedy. "We have to do something," she shouted, her voice slicing through the thick, oppressive atmosphere. The figure in the center twisted, its form warping like water in a shaken glass, dark tendrils reaching out as though inviting them into its embrace. "Jenna! It's a trap!" Michael's voice shook, the realization crashing into him, but something deep within urged him forward. Desperation clawed at his insides as he felt the air saturate with dread. "We have to find a way to Jake." "Jake!" Jenna cried again, her voice cracking under the weight of their fear. The shadows pulsed in response, the whispers now drowning out her thoughts. "Join us." The sound whispered promises laced with malice, curling around her mind like smoke. She felt her heart race, her instincts battling against the magnetic pull of the lurking darkness. "We have to push through." "Push through?" Michael echoed, disbelief stark in his eyes. "This thing, whatever it is, it knows us. It's feeding on our fear." A gust of icy wind swept through the room, forcing them apart. Michael stumbled, falling against the wall as Jenna fought to keep her focus. She turned back to the figure, now writhing, a mass of shadow and twisted horror. "You're not real," she yelled, hoping to reach some core of truth amidst the chaos. The entity laughed, a sound that echoed from the depths of her worst nightmares. "Oh, but we are more real than you can comprehend." Fragments of fear, captured in a world where light dies. Behind them, the door swung shut with a crash, sealing off their escape. Jenna's breath halted, her pulse thundering in her ears. "What do we do, Michael?" "We find Jake. Somehow." Michael yelled, his resolve hardening, terror transmuting into a fierce need to fight back. "We take that path." He pointed to the sliver of light creeping between the writhing shadows. "Are you out of your mind?" She snapped, fear mingling with anger. "That could lead us to worse. Or it could be our only way out," he countered, determination flooding his features. In that moment, the laughter intensified, crescendoing until it was unbearable. Jenna locked eyes with Michael, both sharing a heartbeat of grim understanding. "Together," she whispered, and they sprinted towards the light. The moment they bolted for the glowing edge, the shadows recoiled, hissing in protest, as if physically struck. Jenna felt a rush of adrenaline surge through her, each step pounding against the ground like a drum echoing in an empty hall, but the chase was relentless behind them. As they neared the light, it shifted and flickered, revealing an entrance, a gaping maw almost alive, gnashing teeth of darkness eager to consume them. "Keep going," Michael urged as the whispering voices grew fainter yet ominously low, morphing into something more sinister. The instant Jenna crossed the threshold, it felt like solid ground had given way. She tumbled into an alternate space, one filled with crashing waves of air, stifling and hot. Shadows clawed at her heels, shrieking in distorted rage. "Michael!" she shouted, panic soaring as she looked around. The space was vast, walls shimmering and changing like water under a scorching sun. "Jenna!" His voice sliced through the surreal veil, echoing around her. Where are you? Nested among the illusion of shifting shapes, Jenna spotted him, struggling against the weight of shadows, desperately trying to reach her. Hold on. She screamed, feeling fear twist in her gut. The shadows resumed their assault, growing bold, pulling Michael down inch by inch. If she moved, he would drown. If she stayed, he would be lost. No. Jenna shouted, rushing back, the pounding darkness licking at her legs. It gnawed frantically, trying to yank her away. But she gritted her teeth, crawling, reaching, willing her body to move faster. I want to let you take him. Just as her fingers grazed his, the shadows erupted like a storm, howling in maddening anger, feeding on their desperation, but what Jenna saw next froze her blood. Above them, the swirling tendrils of shadow began forming into distinct figures. Jason. And something beside him. Something she almost recognized, its grin all too familiar. Join us, echoed the haunting voice, dripping with malice. Jenna Michael Jake's face flickered, caught between two worlds. Help me, the dread spiraled. She closed her eyes, fighting against the tempest of horror that threatened to unravel her sanity. With a final surge of strength, she pulled, and the shadows screamed as they tore through the air, revealing a darker truth. Are you ready to face the truth? A voice pierced through the howling, cold and clear. What truth awaited them beyond that rapidly closing passage? Were they ready to confront the darkness that had entwined their fates? As Jenna's fingertips brushed against Michael's hand, an electric shock coursed through her. She felt the weight of the shadows wrap around them, tightening like a noose. I'm here, she gasped, her heart racing frantically. The shrieks intensified, a cacophony of despair and anger that threatened to rupture her eardrums. Michael's eyes reflected pure terror, eyes darting toward the figures above them. Jason's form twisted, merging with the hissing shadows, his face a mask of agony. You shouldn't have come here, he shouted, but the words fell into a void, futile and swallowed by the darkness. Jason! Jenna cried out, her voice cracking. Fight it! You're not trapped. But before she could finish, the shadows surged, dragging Michael deeper. A frantic pull in her gut screamed at her to let go, to save herself. Yet she couldn't. Not now. Not after all they had endured. The moment the warmth of Michael's hand slipped away, Jenna felt the cold creep into her bones. She lurched forward, gripping his wrist just in time, the shadows snarling, writhing as they objected. We're getting out. She screamed, determination rolling through her like boiling adrenaline. Join us, the voice crooned, warm yet chilling, wrapping around her like a smothering embrace. It was seductive, promising freedom, relief from fear. Join us, it's easy. Let go. No. Jenna shouted, forcing her resolve against the encroaching whispers. She could feel the truth of his situation breaking her heart into jagged pieces. How had they arrived here? The shadows grew bolder, howling as they tightened their grip, wrapping tendrils around Jenna's arms, trying to pull her apart. She braced against their force, digging her feet into the shifting ground. You're not real. She yelled, defiance echoing against the distorted reality. Not real. The entity chuckled, an unsettling sound that sent another wave of dread crashing over her. We're all you've ever feared. Your memories. Your regrets. Your darkness. In that moment, the world shifted again. Memories flooded back, scenes of laughter, of light that filled unremarkable days, flashes of carefree adventures. And then they twisted, morphing into shadows of sorrow, the grief of losing Jake, the night they had fought, the chilling silence when they realized someone was missing. Jenna Michael's voice broke through, urgency infusing his tone. You can't let them in. What are you afraid of? It taunted, shifting to a silhouette resembling a younger version of herself. The truth? The entity began to resemble faces from her past, lost connections and laughter that morphed into screams. Pain gripped her chest. Memories fading, slipping away like sand through her fingers. She would lose everything if she gave in. Remember. Jenna's voice rose above the chaos. We're stronger together. Rallying around her fragmented memories, she focused on Michael. The warmth of their bond, the laughter that pierced the shadows, the shared hope they could fight back. We're not alone. The shadows recoiled, hissing with anger, frantically rushing to consume her light. Sweat dripped down her face. I want to get lost, she whispered, anger lending weight to her resolve as she put every ounce of strength into pulling Michael back. Suddenly, like a flash of lightning illuminating a darkened room, a shift occurred. The flickering light spread, carving a path through the dense darkness just ahead, a beacon of hope. We can get to the light. Michael yelled, gripping Jenna's arm tightly, determination igniting in his eyes, but the shadows screamed, and their desperation morphed. They shifted, charging toward the brightness, slashing at Jenna and Michael with vicious fury. The teeth of darkness snapped perilously close, then it happened, a surge of energy swept through the air, a tangible force that sent the shadows reeling back. Jenna's pulse echoed in her ears, urging her forward. The shimmering light flickered, pulsing like a heartbeat, inviting them. Run! Michael shouted, propelling them both toward the feeble radiance. But the shadows swarmed again, desperate to reclaim what they had almost captured. As Jenna felt her heart pounding in her chest, a chilling realization settled deep within her. What if the light was just another trap? With the shadows closing in from all sides, Jenna and Michael were thrust into a terrifying sprint, not knowing what awaited them at the glowing threshold. Would they reclaim their friend? Or be consumed by the darkness they thought they escaped? As the beam of light intensified around them, Jenna's scream pierced the air, a primal cry of both fear and hope. We're coming for you, Jake. What awaited them at the edge of that light? Would the truth they were running toward end up being more terrifying than the shadows they were fleeing? The air around them felt thick as they raced toward the light, an ominous presence gnawing at their heels. Shadows clawed at their backs, a frenzied whirlwind of despair attempting to engulf them. Jenna could feel the heat of their rage, an angry wind that hissed through the darkness, echoing not just in her ears but deep within her gut. There! Michael yelled, his voice hoarse, but filled with undeniable urgency as he pointed to the growing brilliance ahead. Hope flickered like a distant candle, dancing just out of reach, yet tantalizingly close. With every step they took, the darkness swirled, closing in like an angry beast. Jenna willed herself forward, her heart hammering, pounding so violently she feared it might burst. The shadows shrieked a haunting chorus of mourning, sorrow that pulsed through her veins, promising to drag her down into the abyss if she dared falter. We can't let it win. Jenna shouted, desperation sharpening her voice. But with each utterance, dread seeped into her thoughts. The light was blinding now, almost overwhelming, and yet was it really their salvation? Or a cruel deception, masking the truth? As they reached the edge, the brilliant glow enveloped them, swallowing the darkness momentarily. Jenna blinked, disoriented and gasping, a stark contrast to the shadowy tendrils. It felt warm, alive. A sanctuary. But the moment of rest was fleeting. Shadows clawed endlessly, thrashing in desperation, as if protesting a violation. Foolish girl! A voice roared, deep and rumbling, reverberating with rage. You can't escape. Jenna glanced around and gasped. The shadows coalesced into figures, people she knew, faces twisted in agony, their eyes filled with a terror that froze her blood. Friends long gone, memories that should have brought comfort twisted into painful reminders of loss and failure. Jenna! A voice echoed, sharp and familiar. It was Jason, but the look on his face was haunting. No! Get out of here! Jason! She screamed, a jagged pain slicing through her chest. He was fighting, trying to break through the haze of shadows surrounding him. But his form shifted, morphing into a grotesque silhouette of despair, a puppet of the darkness that had seized him. Come back to us! The shadows hissed. You belong with us now. No! Michael shouted over Jenna, pulling her by the arm, forcing her to look forward. We need to move. Fueled by chaos, they stumbled deeper into the light, but it flickered uncertainly as they advanced. It was not solid, not reliable. A false haven that could crumble at any moment. Suddenly, the light dimmed, shadows expanding like a malevolent tide, swallowing their hopes whole. The air thickened, heavy with despair, and Jenna could feel the panic wrapping around her throat like a vice. The very essence of their fear was here, driving them back, merciless. Jenna. Michael tugged her closer, his grip tightening. We have to hold on. Don't let go. With renewed determination, Jenna forced herself to step forward, blocking out the screams and taunts. She thought of Jake, thought of the laughter they shared, the warmth of friendship that faded too soon. She had to believe they could win. But just as hope started to reignite within her, the world around them warped again. The light quaked, flickering ominously as the shadows surged in a final desperate attempt to reclaim what they almost had. The moment felt suspended, stretched like a taut thread on the verge of snapping. Your past cannot be buried. The darkness rumbled. It will follow you, haunt you, forever. As Jenna and Michael lurched forward, the ground beneath them crumbled. The brilliance dimmed, leaving them teetering on the edge of an abyss that yawned open, dark and deep, waiting to devour them whole. Jenna! Michael yelled, a glimmer of terror in his eyes. Catch me! With a horrifying lurch, he slipped, dangling above the void. Jenna lunged forward, grasping desperately, but her heart thudded against the weight of terrible realization. Could she save him? Or would she plunge into darkness alongside him, chaining them to their fears? As she fought for his hand, the abyss whispered sweet promises and terrible truths, dragging her closer. Would she risk it all to pull him back, teasing fate on the edge of the unknown, when the ground roared and another shadow surged, engulfing Michael's terrified scream? A chilling question lingered in the air. How far was she willing to go to save a friend, and what would the depths of darkness demand in return? Jenna's heart raced with a beat so wild it echoed in her ears. She felt Michael's grip slip, a cruel reminder of the darkness clawing at their resolve. Time froze, a moment hanging perilously as she wrestled with the urgency pulsing through her veins. Was she about to lose him to the abyss, a chasm that promised nothing but despair? No. She yelled, adrenaline flooding her body as she stretched her arm further, fingers reaching toward Michael. The thick air felt heavy, each breath seemed to steal her strength. Shadows writhed around her, a chorus of pitiful whispers rising and falling like the tide. Fight, Michael. Fight. Michael's eyes bulged with fear, sweat glistening on his brow, reflecting the dimming light. Jenna, I can't hold on much longer. He gasped, his voice strained, panic surged within her, hot and destructive. I'm coming. Just hold on. But the more she shouted, the more she felt the shadows drawing her back, tugging at her limbs like twisted vines eager to pull her down with them. The world dimmed again, swallowed by a relentless darkness that clawed at her sanity. Jenna gritted her teeth, mustering a primal scream as she lunged, fingers desperately searching for something, anything that could pull Michael back from the brink. With a final, frantic lurch, her fingertips brushed against his hand, a contact so fragile yet electric. Time snapped back into motion, and she clung to him with all her might, but the shadows didn't relent. They roared, echoing the deepest fears she carried inside her: guilt, failure, loss. Each scream bore a familiarity that gnawed at her. Let him go, Jenna. The distorted voice slithered into her thoughts, a disturbing comfort. You can't save him. You never could save anyone. You're a failure. Shut up. She screamed, her voice raw, a feral growl. She would not yield. One last surge of desperation hit her. With every ounce of will, Jenna yanked Michael back toward her. He tumbled into her arms, their bodies hitting the ground hard. The light flickered again, but they were finally away from the ledge, at least for the moment. Panting, they lay side by side, the warmth between them a stark contrast to the cold nightmare closing in. Jenna looked at Michael, their eyes locked, a shared understanding that lingered in the air, a bond fortified by terror. Are we safe? He asked, voice trembling. A shaky breath escaped her lips as she scanned their surroundings. The shadows still throbbed, furious at their escape, but a small area around them glimmered with a faint radiance. Was it real? Would it hold? No, we can't stop, Jenna said, pushing herself off the ground. We have to keep moving. They scrambled to their feet and stumbled forward, propelled by lingering fear and budding determination. The shadows thrashed behind them, angry and relentless, but the light it felt closer now, an elusive promise that beckoned them, but just then, a shockwave of darkness surged ahead, blocking their path. The ground trembled, and Jenna's heart sank. The darkness congealed, forming a grotesque figure, a monstrous amalgamation of the lost souls that had been swallowed by despair, their faces contorted and agonized. You cannot escape your destiny. It howled, a cacophonous bellow that shattered the air. You will pay the price for escaping your memories. Jenna's throat tightened. What price? What did it want from them? Gritting her teeth, she stumbled backward, pulling Michael with her into the dim light that flickered uncertainly. We need to find a way through now. They pressed against the shadow, desperately searching for a gap, lost in the storm of terror swirling around them. Would the light provide refuge, or was it merely a trap, luring them, and as a wave of vengeful whispers rose, promising to ensnare them in eternal darkness, Jenna could only wonder how much longer could she fight against a past that threatened to drown her in its depths. Just as hope began to shimmer again, the darkness struck with a force that sent both of them sprawling. The last remnants of light flickered and faded, and all around them. Silence fell, thick and suffocating. What sinister secrets would they uncover as they fought within this dark void? Jenna's breath hitched as the silence thickened, wrapping around them like a suffocating shroud. The darkness pressed in, heavy and oppressive, each heartbeat echoing her dread. Michael lay beside her, eyes wide and glistening with fear, but they were not alone. The lingering whispers were back, darting through the void, teasing at their sanity. What do we do? Michael whimpered, his voice barely a murmur against the engulfing silence. Jenna felt her palms grow clammy. She glanced around, looking for any flicker of hope. Panic fluttered in her chest as she recalled the grotesque creature. We go back, find that light, she whispered, her voice trembling. We have to try. With a few hesitant steps, they began to maneuver through the thick shadows, moving away from the cloying whispers that seemed to follow them, mocking their attempts to escape. Every shadow felt like a hand reaching out, threatening to pull them under once again. Jenna could feel the prickling fear creeping up her spine. Jenna. Michael's voice halted her, full of worry. His gaze darted around, as if the dark itself was closing in, suffocating and relentless. What if we're stuck? What if we can't get out? We have to believe there's a way, Jenna insisted, pushing through the haze of despair. She wasn't ready to give in. Not yet. They stumbled forward, the ground beneath them shifting. It felt alive, pulsating like a beating heart. Suddenly, the echoes grew louder, swirling around them, forming broken phrases that clawed at their minds. Turn back, lost forever, cannot escape. Jenna winced as the voices scraped against her sanity. No. We're stronger than this. She shouted defiantly, her voice rising above the chaos. But deep inside, she questioned it. Could they really fight against something so ancient and powerful? Just then, the ground shifted violently, tipping them off balance. As they struggled to regain their footing, a form broke through the darkness, a patch of blacker shadow that writhed and pulsed like a living entity. Stop! The creature bellowed, its voice shaking the very essence of their resolve. You must pay for your defiance. Jenna felt Michael grip her arm tightly. What does it want? He gasped. It's feeding on our fear, she realized, a shocking clarity breaking through the confusion. They were not merely running, they were feeding the darkness, allowing it to gain power with every moment of doubt and terror. We can't give in. Jenna shouted, a surge of determination flaring inside her. We need to fight back. But how? The ground churned beneath them, and they were drawn back toward the writhing mass, which twisted with cruel anticipation. Instinctively, Jenna searched the darkness around them, desperate to find anything that could help. "Michael, we need to think," she urged, struggling against the pull of shadows. "What can we do? Remember the light. We saw it. There has to be a way to reach it." Jenna's heart raced as the idea sparked a flicker of hope. "We can create our light, Michael. Together." The shadows screamed, furious at the mere thought, and dark tendrils lashed out, trying to bind them in despair. But Jenna felt a shift in power. She focused all her energy into one thought: defiance. "Come on," she shouted, rallying her thoughts. "We're not afraid. We refuse to surrender to you." A blinding burst of warmth shot through her, igniting in her chest. She could feel Michael tapping into that power, too, a shared strength rising within them. As they clasped hands, the bond of trust and determination formed a glowing beacon amid the shadows. The darkness roared with anger, the sound mingling with their rising defiance. "You cannot fight what you are, what you fear," it screamed, an echo of their own doubts twisting back at them, but Jenna squeezed Michael's hand tighter. "No. You don't get to decide our fate." With that, their makeshift light flared, a burst of radiance that illuminated the void, cutting through the suffocating darkness. The creatures howled in fury as the shadows shrank back, retreating in agonizing defeat. "Keep going. We can do this," Jenna urged, the light growing as they pressed on, the ground shifting beneath them in furious rebellion. Their hope ignited a path forward, but the way was treacherous. Suddenly, a familiar figure loomed ahead, grotesque and shadowed, just as before, but this time its features twisted into an expression of fury and desperation. "You cannot escape, you are destined to remain." "What does that even mean?" Michael shouted, fear and anger mixing in his voice. With every step they took toward the light, the creature's visage warped, becoming more desperate, a reflection of their darkest fears. They had to unravel the truth before it consumed them. "I don't know," Jenna gasped, but their grip on the light remained steady. "But somehow, we'll find a way, we have to." But as the creature shrieked, the ground began to shatter, and beneath them loomed an endless void, opening wide yet again, the last vestiges of their hope flickering dangerously. What awaited them in that chasm? The void yawned beneath them, a swirling darkness that promised nothing but despair. Jenna's heart raced, instincts screaming at her to retreat. Adrenaline surged through her, the fight or flight response battling for dominance. Next to her, Michael's grip tightened, a silent plea for reassurance. "Look, we're not going to fall," Jenna declared, forcing confidence into her voice. "We're light. The shadows fear us." Yet, as she spoke, the edges of the chasm began to crumble, dark rocks cascading into the unknown below. A sharp crack echoed, each resounding fragment filling the air with dread. They had only moments before the ground failed them completely. "Then we climb," Michael shouted, urgency igniting his eyes. "But where?" The sides of the crevice offered nothing but slick darkness that seemed to whimper at their approach. It echoed back the very fear they fought to banish. "What if?" "No. We will not let it win," Jenna interrupted, her voice rising defiantly against the panic clawing at her throat. With renewed energy, they pushed against the darkness, their hands still clasped tight. Jenna closed her eyes for a brief moment, centering herself. The warmth in her chest surged, fighting against the chill creeping in. "We need to reach that light. It'll lead us out." Together, they turned toward the glowing flicker farther along the fringes of the chasm, a gleam fighting back the shadows. The moment they shifted their focus, the whispers renewed, each word sharper than the last, weaving insults and doubts through their minds. "Fools! You're only feeding the darkness. Your time is running out. Hopeless." "Jenna." Michael's voice, frail and distant now, pulled her back to reality. "It's closing in." It was. The shadows surged forward, drowning out the burgeoning light, feeding on their vulnerability. Jenna saw it, an ink-black tide, a malevolent force rising with every breath of despair. "Keep moving," she urged, summoning every ounce of determination to steady his shaking hands. As they neared the light, its brightness intensified, revealing a way adorned with shadows curling back, hissing warnings. Jenna felt her skin tingle as they approached the source. It was a doorway, wide and inviting, but stark against the chaos like an oasis in a storm. "Do you see that?" she asked, nodding toward the exit. "We can reach it." Michael hesitated, glancing back at the monstrous form still writhing in the darkness, now more agitated, each howl enveloping them. "What if it wants to take us again?" he whispered, fear lacing his tone. Jenna bit her lip, panic bubbling dangerously close to the surface. "Then we'll fight it. We have to believe that we can overcome whatever lies beyond. We've made it this far." With resolve, they surged toward the doorway, a cacophony of screams swirling around them. The shadows wailed, tearing at their resolve. "You're making a mistake," they screeched. "You belong here, this is where you will end." In a moment of sheer terror, the ground quaked beneath them, and the shadows lunged forward. Jenna felt fingers cold, claw-like grip her ankles, pulling her back. "No! No!" she screamed, her voice drowning in the madness. Suddenly, the glow from the doorway pulsed with urgency, illuminating her surroundings. She could see the tendrils recoiling from the light, the creature now trapped in its own web of darkness. "Jenna!" Michael shouted, grasping her waist as she began slipping into the void. "Grab the light." In a desperate frenzy, Jenna stretched out her hand toward the glowing portal. "I won't give up," she yelled, drawing strength from within. She felt the warmth surge anew, and with a final surge, she tore free from the grasp of shadows. They leaped together through the doorway, light swallowing them whole, leaving the dark behind. But what emerged on the other side was an unsettling silence, heavy and passive. Darkness whispered faintly in the distance, but the light here was far more blinding, an overwhelming brightness that flooded their senses. Still disoriented, Jenna struggled to focus. Where were they now? In the midst of confusion and fading light, a chilling laughter echoed, familiar yet twisted, as if mocking their brief triumph. "You think you are free?" it sneered, resonating through the atmosphere like a harbinger of despair. "Your journey is just beginning." Jenna's breath caught in her throat. Whatever lay ahead, she knew they hadn't escaped yet. "Michael, what's happening?" But even as she questioned, shadows began gathering in the corners, promising that their battle was far from over. Would the door lead them to salvation or deeper into the abyss they'd narrowly escaped? The laughter grew louder behind them, and they realized one hard truth: freedom was just an illusion. What lay ahead might be worse than what they left behind. As the blinding light dull of hope flickered around them, Jenna's heart pounded. The laughter echoed, wrapping around them a sinister reminder that the shadows weren't far behind. "We can't let it win, Michael," she shouted, drawing strength from the warmth still coursing through her. "Right," Michael replied, determination hardening his features. "We need to find a way out of here." They steadied themselves, taking in the strange and shimmering environment around them. The ground felt solid, but the air crackled with energy, and the shadows lurked just out of view, writhing and twisting in anticipation of their next move. "Where do we go?" Jenna whispered, scanning for any hint of an exit. "Over there." Michael pointed toward a shimmering archway, encased in vibrant colors that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat between realms. The shadows shifted as if sensing their intentions. "Let us go." With Michael's hand firmly clutched in hers, they sprinted toward the archway, feeling the warmth draw them closer. The shadows growled behind, hissing with anger, their whispers twisting into threats: "You cannot escape us." As they reached the archway, the light exploded around them. It felt alive, promising safety. But doubt threaded through Jenna's heart. "Do we just step through?" she wondered, the echo of darkness still clawing at her mind. "We have to." We can't stay here, Michael insisted, his voice a steady anchor against the backdrop of chaos. Together? Jenna asked, her uncertainty mirrored in Michael's wide eyes. Always, he replied, and without another moment's hesitation, they stepped through the archway together. With a rush, they were propelled into another dimension that was bright yet quiet, almost as if the air itself held its breath. No shadows. No laughter. Only an unending expanse of soft light. They landed softly on a platform that felt ethereal, and momentarily, relief washed over them. This feels different, said Jenna, looking around. In this realm, the weight of fear felt distant, it was as if the shadows had no power here. Whatever we've done, it worked, Michael replied, hope shining in his gaze. But before Jenna could respond, a figure emerged. It was gentle and glowing, exuding warmth that enveloped them. Welcome, lost ones, it said with a voice that resonated peace. You have shown great courage in the face of despair. Who are you? Jenna asked, the lump in her throat constricting her words. I am the keeper of this realm. You have faced your shadows and emerged with strength, it explained, gestures inviting them forward. This place is a sanctuary, a resting place for those who seek refuge. But what if they follow us? Michael asked apprehensively, glancing back toward the archway. The shadows feed on your fear. Here, that cannot survive, the figure reassured them. As they moved further into the light, Jenna felt the heavy weight of fear roll off her like a cloak, leaving her invigorated, their surroundings transformed into a vibrant garden, ethereal blooms dancing in a light breeze, releasing the sweet scent of freedom. It felt surreal. Is this real? Jenna breathed, marveling at the beauty around them. It's as real as you choose to make it, the keeper said, a soft smile touching its lips. You must confront your past, your pain, and own it to fully embrace this new beginning. Jenna's heart ached. But how do we do that? We lost Jake. Jake is a part of your journey, the keeper replied, guiding them to a shimmering pool that reflected their memories. The surface rippled, revealing memories of laughter, joy, moments shared before darkness crept in. It pulsed with emotions, the happiness was palpable. Let him go, Michael said softly, the realization dawning. We need to remember the good. Tears filled Jenna's eyes. We can let the memories empower us instead of haunting us. She felt the shadows of grief diminish in the face of love. Yes. Honor him, share him. Remember his laughter, his spirit, the keeper encouraged. Only in understanding can the shadows loosen their grip. Jenna nodded, a sense of calm settling over her as she turned back to the shimmering pool. Jake, we love you. We will carry your memory with us, always. With those words, she felt surged warmth rush through her as the garden thrummed with energy. True freedom awaits you both if you embrace what lies ahead, the keeper said. When you are ready, step beyond the light and into your new path. Michael glanced at Jenna, his resolve fortifying. Are you ready? I am, she replied, determination rising. They turned back to the archway, now a radiant doorway beckoning them forward. Shadows had no power here, fear had no place. With hands clasped tight, they stepped into the light. As they emerged on the other side, Jenna's heart swelled with hope. The haunted echoes of the abandoned school faded as they stepped into a familiar street bathed in dawn's light. We're home, Michael breathed, relief flooding his features. Together, they knew they had fought the darkness and emerged stronger, united by a bond forged through the terror they faced. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would navigate them together, and the echoes of lost voices would serve to remind them of their strength. Let us live fearlessly, Jenna said with a smile, finally letting go of the weight they carried. They walked toward the rising sun, ready for what lay ahead, a life no longer shadowed by fear, but one illuminated by light and the memories of those they loved, and that was how their journey truly began. Now that you've reached the end of this thrilling tale, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the content coming. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.